My name is Carrie Watson. I'm the social studies teacher at the Senior High Alternative Center in Iowa City.
And my name is Ben Mosher, and I'm the English teacher here at the Alternative Center.
Well, I've been familiar with PATV because I'm a longtime Iowa City citizen and have been watching it off and on for almost a decade now in a sense. And I've always known that students are really interested in that type of a media, looking at different ways of sharing their knowledge. It's a creative form. And even prior to starting here last year, I thought, well, it'd be a great opportunity to look at a community-based organization, PATV, bring our students out into the community, hook them up with another organization, and do a project where they're sharing information with a larger audience. And we did it using the medium of video. So I went down to PATV and I talked to Adam Burke and brought an idea to him, and you were really into it, and you were really open about it, and you were excited about it, and you made it very easy for me to kind of formulate the idea and then put it into sort of a tangible project for the kids to do. We got some funding from downstairs to have the kids go through the classes in order to be able to use the editing and room and the cameras, and then we did the project in connection with PATV. Well, we actually did a couple different things. We did an introductory. It was first state and local government class, and since it was the first project, I went ahead. I had an idea in my mind of what we wanted to do, and we worked together with the kids to decide kind of who was going to be interviewed and such. But we decided to look at nonprofit organizations and government agencies here in Iowa City. What do they do? Who do they serve? How do they serve people? We had previously done a project with my language arts teacher, Ben Mosher, where we had already researched some nonprofits, so they were a little familiar with it to begin with. We'd worked with the Crisis Center. We had gone on a field trip to UAY to kind of see what services they provide. And so this was one more way of kind of expanding their awareness of different organizations in our community, different problems, and how are people trying to address those problems. They were very excited about it, and they had to come, absolutely, 100%, for 3 straight days, and be attentive and listening and taking an active part in the process in order for PATV to recognize that they actually could then be qualified and experienced enough to use their equipment. And several of them really got into it. And so that's what we did. We had 100% attendance on those days, and then we had 2 or 3 students who took a little bit of a more initiative. They really got into it. One of them now is doing filming for Educational Exchange, and possibly will be doing some more work for PATV in the future. Another one had a previous experience in videotaping, and he's thinking about expanding his experience as well. So it was a nice way to see, here's the project, but here's the extension of the project beyond just that limited 6 weeks. So it was a nice experience. Last year in the fall, we had a Cuban poet come from the International Writing Program. I was teaching in area studies, and we were looking at Latin America. And they had expressed a desire to have the opportunity for a poet to come into the schools and talk with the students. I thought, well, that would be great. You know, what an experience. We're studying Latin America. We're looking at Cuba anyway. Now we can actually put a face and a voice to the experiences of what we were studying. And so we looked into the sort of the military dictatorship in Cuba and the political oppression in Cuba. And then Jorge Espinosa came for that day, and he was a poet and a gay activist, and he kind of had all different things that he could talk about in Cuba. And we came and we went into Ben's class for an hour, and it was just a wonderful experience. The kids were just so intrigued by what Jorge had to bring. And here was this young man who not only is from Cuba, but had a desire to go back to Cuba and to write about what was happening in Cuba, and they couldn't reconcile that with themselves. They look at their problems in their immediate life, and they think that they're such, you know, they're so heavy, you know, they're never going to get beyond that. And then they hear of a man who could be imprisoned, who possibly could maybe even be killed because of what he's saying and what he's writing. And not only is he willing to risk that, but he's willing to risk going back to keep doing it. And it was really intriguing for them. They really got excited about it. Here we've had a wonderful experience working with PATV. We had a wonderful experience working with International Writing Program. Let's expand it. Let's make it bigger. Maybe even create a pilot project that could be something that is permanent in our school. So I got together with Adam at PATV, and I talked to Jennifer Baum at International Writing Program, and I said, I got this idea. I think it might be something that's cool. What can we do? So I planned the project, and then I went to a couple different sources for funding for the project. And in order to be able to do several things. A, the students are going to, again, learn more video production and editing. B, we're going to have a public reading, and we are going to advertise that, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then finally, we're going to try and expose all of Iowa to this project, and that's where a fair amount of this money is going to be coming. We're going to be creating a documentary where we'll be videotaping the writers. We now have a series of 5 international writers and 1 local writer who's going to come, and they'll be talking with the students about what they've learned in their history class. And in Ben's class, they're reading the actual works of these writers, and they'll have an hour to just have that open discussion, an open forum, a dialogue with these writers. And we'll be videotaping that. And then in conjunction with that, the students are going to be writing their own works about their own life experiences. Some will be writing about their experiences here in Iowa. Some of them will be writing about their experiences in life in general. We'll be having a public reading at the Iowa City Public Library on November 13th at 7 o'clock in Meeting Room A. And all the public is invited to come and either listen to the students' works or to get up and read their own works. If they have any of their own writings concerning their experiences of living in Iowa or living in Iowa City, then they are also going to be welcome to come up and share their writings.
I mean, the most amazing thing for us is that the kids, I mean, we always, when we read books or a piece of literature, we have questions that we wish we could find out the answer to. And we're able to go and ask the people at the end of the week. And a lot of times we're seeing their writing in a very early form, so we can ask them about where they might be going. So often we're catching these writers in the same place in their writing that all of us in the class are at with our writing. So that's been really exciting. And of course we immediately get all the answers to the questions that we have built up over the week, both from reading their work and from studying their countries in Carrie's class. So that's one of the most exciting things. And the other thing, and really where the PATV and the literary magazine come in, is I found that the opportunity to really put your works out there in a public sense for these kids makes such a meaningful, significant. I mean, makes significant the work that they've done in a way that just sitting in class doing some writing, getting it back doesn't. So I think that has made the writing that's happened in the class really amazing. I think they put a lot more time and thought into it than they normally would. And I think the anticipation that this would be made public both at the library and on TV has really made it come alive for them.
This last year, I've just seen a really good relationship between PATV and Senior High Alternative Center. They've been very open and enthusiastic and helpful in trying to get our students active in this media. And it's not a shrinking medium. I mean, there are some real practical applications to the experiences that they're having. There's job training. There's this idea of even looking at media literacy, which we have a class now on media literacy. It's not to say that we're moving away from books, because hopefully, I hope that books always stay in our lives, but TV is not going away. In fact, it's just expanding. And the job opportunities that the students can have based on the experiences that they're having are enormous and very practical. So, and also, from a social studies teacher's perspective, this opportunity, so often I think students learn history and they feel alienated from it. They feel that they're not a part of it, that they have no connection to it. Yeah, they're learning about Africa, and they're learning about Asia, and they're learning about Europe and Latin America. but they don't feel a connection to it because it's difficult when you just read about something. But to have a person come and talk about their political life, the economic and social conditions, the world that they live in, I think it gives our students a little step into another world outside of their own little small box that sometimes that teenagers tend to live in. I think sometimes even adults tend to live in. And so that, for me as a social studies teacher, has been one of the greatest parts about this project, is to watch the connection, to see this enlightenment that these students are experiencing. It's empowering.